Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the other class you're teaching for us this summer, the Intro to Contemporary U.S. Security Studies.
So this is my favorite class. It's one of my favorite classes because this is actually what my doctorate is in, is security studies. And so security studies, we tend to think of just terrorism, but security studies actually talks about global health, global diseases, which before COVID, the thing that we talked about the most in that class was Ebola and how it was a transnational disease. In that class, we talk about human trafficking, organ smuggling. There's so many threats to a nation state that goes beyond terrorism. Like the grid, the national energy grid, is one of the biggest threats that a nation state can face. So when students come in, they think, oh, we're just going to talk about terrorism for a semester. And I'm like, no, we actually have a class called Terrorism Studies. What we're going to talk about here is how a tornado or a flood can actually create like a whole pandemic in a country, because rising waters means that there are going to be mosquitoes, which means there are outbreaks of diseases, which means people are out on the street. So things like just something as simple as a flood can tear up an economy of a whole nation state. So that's kind of what that class is about, looking at everything but terrorism. I mean, we talk about it, it's a very small section, but it's so many other things that could go wrong in a nation.
And so who do you find usually takes that class? Is that usually just criminal justice students, or do you have kind of across the board?
It's across the board. So the title is usually intriguing to mostly CJ students, but I have a lot of students that come from education. I've had students from business. It just varies. Students are like, oh, that's an interesting title. I wonder what that's about. And then they come in, and then I usually end up having them for another class, because I then teach something like terrorism studies, and they're like, now I want to learn about just that. But yeah, so that's, it's a variety of students come.